From an emotional standpoint, are things different for kids today than they were like 20 or 30 years ago?
Absolutely, for sure. And I think a couple things. Number one is, and I heard this quote years ago, it's probably not the direct quote, but it's the concept, is that kids today are more exposed to more things at an earlier age, but they are not more mature.
Oh.
Than say they were 20, 30 years ago. And so things that, you and I probably didn't have hit us until college or beyond are hitting kids, in fifth grade. Because they have, the world in their hand for the most part with their smartphone. And so things are coming at them that are kind of messing them up emotionally, and there's no way for them to process. And then that's the other thing is, and we're all in this boat, I think, is the speed at which we have to try to process things because of the world we live in. Kids are just not equipped to be able to handle that. And so their mental capacity is not there, and they just can't keep up with the speed.
Yeah. Well, I know you've spoken about what parents can do to not help kids pack these emotional bags. Can you share some of those things?
Yeah, well, each one of the bags has kind of different suggestions, and that's one of the things that I really wanted the book to be about, was just some practical tips for parents that they can kind of do every day. And so, each bag has different practical tips, but let's just take, the performance bag, for instance. I would say help your kids know that you really love them and that their identity is not rooted in their performance. Oftentimes, I think kids feel like, certainly in the school world, certainly in the sports world, that their identity is rooted in how good they are at something. Mm-hmm. And that is some real performance baggage. And I could tell you a story about my daughter who, when she was in seventh grade, she had, I think, some school performance baggage that my wife and I weren't packing at all. I mean, we were saying, do your best, but we had to help her sort of sort through, this is not who you are. This is not your identity. Part of the way that we did that is another practical suggestion in the performance bag is just reduce the pressure at home, which for some parents is hard to hear, but there is so much pressure on our kids everywhere in life that what if home could be the place that is kind of a respite for them, to where it's not, oh, you only got a 93, you need to kind of jack that up to get an A, or hey, like in the game today, make sure you're keeping your eye on the ball and let's get 2 hits instead of 1 hit. And there's just all this pressure that we kind of sometimes exert at home. What if we kind of reduce the pressure at home? So those are a couple kind of practical tips with the performance bag. With the relational bag, one of the things I like to say to parents a lot is to give kids time, and the way I say it is on their time, because our kids want time with us, sort of relationally as their parents. And so oftentimes they have small windows of time because we have made them so busy, and we have to give them our time when they have the time for it. 2 examples of that just with my daughter is, years ago, I was right in the middle of kind of writing this, came home one night, it's 6:00. I've got something I'm trying to get done before dinner. My wife's cooking dinner. My son's kind of just home from practice. My daughter's home from practice. And my daughter, she's probably 12 or so at the time. She says, Dad, can we play Crazy Eights? And I'm working on something that I'm trying to get done before dinner so I can, and I'm thinking, God, I got to get this thing done. But what I've coached myself into is I have to say yes. When my kids are asking me for time, I have to say yes, because guess what? Most of the time I can say yes. And it's just, they have little windows of time. And then the most recent thing with my daughter, she's 15 now, but we'll go on drives. And it started kind of a year or 2 ago because of just a scheduling circumstance where the 2 of us were home and we're like, hey, let's just go take a drive, through the city. And we've got this kind of hour-long loop we do. We throw on some worship music, and it kind of became a thing. And now, literally 3 weeks ago, 10:30 at night, she's done with her homework. Hey, Dad, you want to go on a drive? And again, I have to say yes because my 15-year-old daughter is asking for time, and I can give it to her. So we went on a hour-long drive, and we're talking about different song lyrics, and kind of she's asking questions, and we're having a great conversation. We pull in the driveway. She starts asking about Ukraine and what's going on in Ukraine, and so we can have kind of a real-world life conversation. And at midnight, I walked back in the house. I didn't have any shoes on. I literally just hopped in the car, and we took an hour-and-a-half long drive, and it was the best hour-and-a-half of my month by far. So give them time on their time is kind of a practical suggestion when it comes to the relational bag.
Yeah, well, you're talking to a recovering perfectionist, so like what you're saying is hitting home with me.
Sorry.
And I'm also thinking about like that B. Oh man, it still bothers me in college. But yeah.